YouTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie. So this video is going to be a sort of update video and also letting you know what series I hope to finish this year. I want to try to I want to continue to try to break the habit of spreading out in series or trilogies or quartets where I spread out reading of the books throughout the years. Like I'll read one book from the series and then it will be years later when I read the next one, and I want to change that. I mean, I'm already not doing well with some of the series, the longer series that I'm reading, but I feel like I shouldn't do that with like series that are just like 4 or 3 books long. And actually the book I'm currently reading that I'm going to update you guys on is part of one of those series. And that is Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This is the first book in the Dandelion Dynasty. It's 4 books long. And so far, I am really enjoying this. I am having a good time with it. I mean, it is a war book, but I'm still having fun. I really like the characters. And I can understand why people feel like this is more of a prologue. But I feel like it's too long to be a prologue. I can understand why it feels like one, but to me, it doesn't. But to me, it's not a prologue, if that makes any sense. It does kind of go through the events, like one right after the other, but I think it's a war book, so to me, that would be the nature of a war book. Because the characters, the warriors, the soldiers have to just keep moving, keep fighting, and there's always something going on. There's one, different group of soldiers in other parts of the world, they can't stop. So I feel like this is right that just keeps moving, kind of like a thriller. But to me, like The Fall by Ryan Cahill, the prequel book that comes with that you can download free if you get the Fire and Blood series by Ryan Cahill. I always get that mixed up with the Game of Thrones, with this George R. R. Martin's book about the Targaryens. I get those titles mixed up. But I think it's Fire and Blood. And, I mean, it might be Blood and Fire. Like I said, I get those titles mixed up. But there was a free ebook, which I appreciate that was free, that I downloaded called The Fall, and it kind of sets up the events that happen in the rest of the series, how the world is the way it is in the first book. But that felt more like a prologue to me, because you were dropped into the middle of this big scene where the antagonist has taken over, and how, like I said, how the empire of that world had formed. And it felt like you were just dropped into the middle of that. Like the whole thing was just one big scene with different sections being highlighted, different groups of characters being highlighted. And I mean, I appreciate that we got it and everything, but it felt like it could have just been in the first book as a little part of the first book. But although it was kind of tricky because it was a little bit long. Like, he made it into novella length, but the events of the story could have been condensed to, a prologue chapter of a story. But I still appreciate it. I appreciate that we have it, and it was nice to get those events. I felt like it didn't need to be a separate thing, or at least, but maybe because he wanted to make it, not condense it, and he wanted to tell a little bit more, so he turned it into a novella instead. So it's in a tricky place, personally, for me, where it feels like a prologue, but it's longer than a prologue would be. So it needs to be a novella, but I feel like for the author, Ryan Cahill, it probably felt like we wanted to make it a novella, but it didn't need to be. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. Like I said, I enjoy the characters, although they're already driving me crazy because it's like they are showing themselves to be no better than the antagonist, the Empire. And like, they have that mentality of, you did this to us, we're gonna do it back to you. And, like, I understand where that mentality is coming from, and it's easy to let that mentality wash over you, because if you've been treated like shit by these people, and you get the chance to take over and ruin their lives and take back, then of course you'll be tempted to punish them and get them back and be like, you did this to me, well, I'm gonna do the same thing to you. Nah, 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 nah. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like children on a playground. Like, having a temper tantrum. And they're the two main characters, Kunigaru and Mata Zendu, are very much, they're letting their egos and their cockiness get the best of them. And they're the living embodiments of some of the 7 deadly sins. They're kind of representing those a little bit with pride and anger and envy and sloth and greed and all. Like, they're definitely like exuding those. And lust is another, sloth and lust, and it's worrisome. But I'm curious what's going to happen. I definitely want to keep going, find out what's going to happen, if they're going to lose, if they're going to be humbled, or if they are going to defeat and they're going to become the new empire. Like, they'll try to be, I wonder if they're going to, like, try to be better, but then they'll end up being no better than the original empire. Like, I mean, I got 3 more books to go in this, so it does not look good. So I don't know how things are going to turn out. Like, this is the first book, so, I mean, if this story was in the last book, then yeah, you wouldn't, they would defeat the bad guy, the empire, it would be hoped for that they would be better, and, there would be hope in the world, and everything would work out, and if this was the last book, but this is the first book, so, it's not going to turn out great, things are not going to be better, things are going to be just as bad, might potentially be just as bad as before, but if not worse. But yeah, I'm excited to continue, and I don't want this to be another series where I don't read the next book for like 6 months or more. I want to pick it up the book 2 as soon as I'm done with this one. I mean, I used to do that as a kid, and, but that was before BookTube, and now BookTube, and I don't entirely blame, I'm not trying to blame BookTube, because, like, I make my own choices, and when I read, of course, but yeah, BookTube makes you so aware of so many books that you want to pick up everything, you want to devour everything, and that's where consumerism comes into play. Like, I think that's part of the problem, and I think we need to exercise. I do agree that people need to exercise self-control. And I'm not, I'm working on it, slowly working on it, but. Yeah, so I'm enjoying this, and this is the first series I want to get to and finish by the end of this year. So now let's talk about the other series. Now on to talking about the actual other series that I want to get to, that I would like to try to finish before the end of the year, by the end of the year, or at least come close. Actually, I already did finish one trilogy. I finished the Hearthstone trilogy. I read the last book at the start of this year, and that's Flamebringer, and that was really good. I really enjoyed that. I had a good time, and I feel very happy that I finished the whole trilogy. And I did donate it to, I think I did. I think I did. I think I decided to donate it to Givens to share with other people, because I enjoyed it. But I've decided, am I going to read this again or not? And maybe I would have. There's a chance I might have. But I can always get these. If I want to buy these books again, I can always just buy them via ebook. If I kind of have second thoughts. That's what I like to do from now on. Is just, if there's books that I have second thoughts about getting donated, then I'll just get it on ebook. So the next 2 are ones that, well, one of them is a trilogy that I don't have the last book yet, but I'm hoping to get to it. I'm hoping to get it next Thrift Books purchase, because I've never seen it at the store, and I know it's not at Givens, so I have to get it at Thrift Books. Either that, or hopefully, or get on Amazon. So first we have The Magician King. This is the second book of the Magician's trilogy. I read last year. I read the first book. Really enjoyed it. I remember I loved the series, and it kind of does a little different with fantasy series. Like it does its own, it has a really more cynical approach, a more realistic approach, I feel like, to fantasy worlds. And now they're not all sugary sweet and fun. So the first book, The Magicians, is about this young man, Quentin Coldwater. He's kind of experiences depression. He's not satisfied with his life. He's been in love with his best friend. I cannot remember her name, but they never have been together. They never got together. He never had the courage to tell her how he felt. Although it is implied that she did know. And Julia's her name. And the one thing that brings them together that he never truly grew out of is his love for the Fillory and Further series, which is kind of like a Narnia type world, and it's his one comfort in life. And then during a college interview, something happens where he ends up getting recruited by this mysterious woman who brings him to a college that does magic, a magic school. And he ends up learning, going to this magic school, and break bills. And it's less whimsy and a little more academic driven, and very shows it's very hard. It's actually something you have to craft. You have to learn. It doesn't come naturally. It's very intricate type of magic system, and not only does he learn that magic is real and there's a cult for magicians, but he also learns that maybe the Fillory books might be real as well, and finds himself mixed up in this magical war. Now, like I said, to me, it's a little bit different than, other fantasy books. It has a lot more darker themes, and it's a little more nonsensical. It's like a darker version of Alice in Wonderland. It's like Narnia, it's Alice in Wonderland, if that makes sense. Normally I don't like doing that. I don't like comparing books, but it's hard to explain it. It's just a darker story, and it doesn't sugarcoat things, and doesn't show, and the characters are, like I said, more cynical, and these characters learn that the only way they can do magic is if they're unhappy. That's when they are the most powerful. Which makes sense, because other fantasy stories, fantastical stories, say magic comes from your emotions. And a lot of times it's fear, it's emotions. Anger and fear often can trigger magical powers in people in a lot of these stories. But I'm glad I read it. Like I said, I love the series, and I'm liking the book. Although I still kind of lean more towards the actual television show than the book. And I like that version of the characters a little bit better. But yeah, when I read it, I remembered what happened in the show, so mostly I still enjoyed it, but there weren't a lot of surprises, but I still loved it and still was a favorite. So I'm hoping there's only 2 more books, because it is a trilogy, and this is the book 2, where I'm assuming it will pick up right where the first one left off. So I cannot wait to read this. And then the next one, this is the one where I don't have book 3 yet, and that is The Spider by Leo Carew. Oh, it's funny, on the blurb it says, imagine Game of Thrones rewritten by John le Carré. I feel like if you're a fan of Bernard Cornwell's The Saxon series, you might like this. Because it's not exactly the same, but it is a similar story. because it's dealing with Vikings and a character, in Viking warriors. But it's no, it's not the same type of story. But it's similar. It's a similar setting. The main character in this one is similar to the main character of the Saxon series. There's no like adoption. There's no like a character being raised one way and living with another, the opposite group, and there's no like a war for Christianity and stuff like that, because it is still a fantasy series. But yeah, it has similar feelings, like vibes, to the Saxon series, with the same setting, and the characters are a little similar to those characters. Because they're both Viking stories and warrior stories. So yeah, it just has some similarities, but it's not like I'm not saying it's a copy of that series. I'm just saying it has similar vibes to that series, and I think if you like that series, maybe check out this one as well. The first book is called dang it, I forgot what it's called. But the series itself is called Under the Northern Sky. I mean, let me look and see. Oh, The Wolf. The first book is called The Wolf. By Leo Carew. Under the Northern Sky is the series. And, which I'm surprised. They compare this to George R. R. Martin, but I'm surprised they didn't compare it. And maybe because George R. R. Martin writes this is a fantasy story, and, Game of Thrones is a fantasy story. Although I love how they refer to it only as Game of Thrones now, which is what the show is called. But the actual book series is Song of Ice and Fire. But anyway. But I like how because they're both fantasy series, but I think they should also compare it to, like I said, compare it to the Saxon series. But anyway, so the first book is The Wolf. And it's only 3 books long. But yeah, I remember, again, I liked it, It's not an all-time favorite story, but I really was intrigued. I mean, I wish there had been more female characters, but it's not a surprise that there aren't a lot of female characters, because this is a warrior story, and, and it's similar to, and like I said, it reminds me of the Saxon series. But I'm hoping that maybe we have one female character introduced in this story that we do have, that I feel like she's definitely give warrior vibes. If I remember correctly, it's been a while. Like, this is what happens. It will take years before I read it, and then I forget things. But yeah, I'm hoping to buy book 3 soon, which is called The Cuckoo, before the end of this year. So yeah, this is a maybe. I might finish it. It will depend on when I get book 3. So there's those 2. This is a little bit longer of books. This is the Live Ship Trader series, and I do have all the books in the I think it's the Tawny Man trilogy. Is the next one? Let me see if it shows in here. Yeah, I think I have the Tawny Man trilogy. Yeah, so, I can get, which is good. I can jump into that right after I finish this one. But, as you can see, I've already made a little bit more progress than I made last time I stopped reading it. So this is part of the Realm of the Elderling series by Robin Hobb. This is basically, you have, with the exception of, what is that series called? I love it when books have all the previous titles they've written. The Rainwild Chronicles, other than the Rainwild Chronicles, most of her series are trilogies, and this is the second trilogy. Now, which I feel like, I don't know if you could get away with reading Farseer later, or if you can jump into the series via this one. Because I know not everybody loves Farseer. You have to really like Fitz in the Farseer trilogy to enjoy that. Because you're in his head the whole time. and he's not the most likable character. Like, he's not a bad person, and he's not like a crass male character or disgusting male character. He's just kind of a, I hate to use this word, but whiny. He comes off as a whiny male character, and just you see him growing up, so he's very immature throughout most of the series. And I know a lot of people were disappointed in Assassin's Quest. I don't remember how I felt about Assassin's Quest. I do want to reread that series. Because I didn't hate it. I liked it, you know? I mean, but I get why people might not love it. Because you're in Fitz's head the whole time. And he's kind of annoying. But anyway, so let's get back to this one. So this is her second trilogy. And in this one, you're in kind of this pirate-like kingdom, this seafaring kingdom with pirates, various sailors, and you have in this world these ships known as live ships and in this world, like, when 3 captains of this ship die, their spirits go into their ship, become part of their ship, and the ship comes alive. It has a conscience and has the breath of life in it. And the family we're with in this book, in this trilogy, the main family we're in, is the Vestra family. And you find that the current patriarch of the family is getting ready to die in the beginning of the series, and the daughter, one of the daughters, she's kind of a tomboy. She very much, like, has sailed the ships with her father while her mom wants her to get married and everything and live on land and live the life of a lady, and she doesn't want to do that. And she believes that she will, because she's the biological heir, the heir of the family, that she believes she is meant to inherit the ship, because she actually cares about this life. She understands its value and its importance and how their family needs to do things, and she actually is passionate about it. So of course it makes sense that she would inherit. Well, the mom, with her other daughter and son-in-law, decide to take it out from under her, so that, because her intention is to protect her daughter, make sure her daughter becomes grows up to be a beautiful young lady, and because she loves her daughter and wants what's best. And in this society, like a lot of societies, even in fantasy worlds, ladies aren't meant to do boy things, which are going on adventures and sailing on ships and running around fighting and stuff like that. But the brother-in-law, Kyle, he doesn't care about this. He doesn't appreciate its value. He doesn't see the importance of it and the true intentions of these live ships. And he's not a good leader. He's not meant to, and that's so far where I'm at in the book. Like, the daughter is very much unhappy. She's really upset and angry, and to her family, she's having temper tantrum. And there's also a subplot of a pirate character who wants to capture a live ship and conquer and become a pirate king. And what I'm guessing is later in the story, they're going to cross paths and they're going to work together to get each other what they want, what the other one wants. And I don't know if there's going to be a love story between the two of them. Now, that is my current theory. My current suspicion is the two of them are going to have a little bit of a romance, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And there's already another character who kind of likes her, our heroine, and cares about her and maybe even loves her, but she doesn't feel that way about him, I don't think. But whenever I do read it, it's really good, and I really enjoy it. It is slow, a little slow, but not in a bad way. And it's only 3 books long, but as you can see, they are long books, and I'm still working on getting used to books that are this long and reading them within, there's like 830 pages in each, and I'm sure in each book probably gets longer and longer. But yeah, it's 3 books long, and I'm hoping to get it done. Now, like I said, there's no guarantee I'm gonna get all these books done, but I would like to try to. Okay, so here we have another trilogy that, in this case, I am on the last book. This is the All Souls trilogy, although technically there is another book that Deborah Harkness published, called Time's Convert, which I don't know. I feel like it's a separate thing. Like, it could be a potentially prequel book or something, because I think it's about Matthew Claremont's son. I can't remember his name, who he's introduced in this book. I mean, it could be like some of the events of the first book through his eyes or something, or throughout the whole trilogy, his viewpoint. But anyway, this is the last book. But if you want to know, this is basically a trilogy about, in this world, you have witches, vampires, and I don't know if you still call it demons or not, because it's not spelled the way it's spelled in the Bible with DEAMON. It's spelled, I think, it's spelled with it's kind of spelled similarly to the way it's spelled in his Dark Materials. But and they're not evil. They're actually just creatures that are very creative and have this enhanced ability, magical, like it's hard to explain what they are, but they're creative people. They're creative creatures. And so our main character, Diana Bishop, is from a powerful family of witches. She lives with her aunt and her aunt's girlfriend, and she has refused to practice magic because she blames magic for killing her parents. And she is a college student and is currently studying her master's at Oxford, I believe, and if I remember correctly. And she accidentally comes across a powerful manuscript, which I used to know, Ashmole 782. And for some reason, when she ends up affecting this manuscript, it starts to glow and show signs of magic. And she freaks out, doesn't want anything to do with magic. So she tries to get rid of it and send it away. Well, this alerts the rest of the magical community, including Matthew Claremont, who is a vampire, a European vampire. I don't know if you consider French. I mean, his mom is French, but I don't know if he would be considered French. Because I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think they're French. And this gets his attention as well. And they discover that they believe that this Ashmole 782 might hold the secrets to each of the different races. Like, each of the races think it holds the secrets to their own, and they don't want the other ones to get their hands on it. And Matthew, who is a professor of biology at Oxford, gets involved with, tries to, spies on Diana and tries to, feel her out, see if he can trust her, and what does she know about Ashmole 782. And he becomes very intrigued by her and starts following her around, and he keeps, and offers to help protect her, and eventually offers to help protect her, and along the way he starts to fall in love with her. But he knows that vampires and witches don't work as a couple. And they try to figure out what the deal is with Ashmole 782 and why everyone's after, and maybe the mystery behind what really happened to her parents. And that, and it has similar Twilight, a lot of people compare it to Twilight because of the romance, but it's a very different story. There's yes, it, I mean, that, I feel like it's not a fair comparison to say that, oh, it's just like Twilight. It's like the only thing it has in common with Twilight is that is a vampire and a human falling in love. That's the only thing that has in common with Twilight. I mean, there's so much more going on in this world, and these characters are a bit more mature. And I think Matthew's a little less whiny than Edward. and a little less punishing himself for being a vampire. Like, yes, he feels guilty about people that he's killed and stuff, and he tries to maintain his bloodlust and everything, and loves Diana, is obsessed with, and he does, similar things to that Edward does with Bella, but also, I think that's just the nature of vampires in these books. Like, in these books that kind of turn vampires into, like, tortured souls who fall in love with a human or whatever, I think they become overprotective to the point of overbearing and controlling and just like doing unhealthy things and no boundaries. To me, that's just how they are in these stories. So I just go with it. I know it's not definitely not healthy relationships, but it's kind of fun. It can also be fun too. So, these stories are fun, I think. But yeah, it's the only, other than that, it does its own thing. There's a different conflict going on. It's not just about their relationship. That's a big part, but it's also this mysterious Ashmole 782 manuscript. And there's a lot more history into this trilogy. There's a lot more, you get to know the history of vampires and werewolf, and vampires, and there's no werewolves, vampires and demons and witches. You get more depth, you get to learn more about them, and yeah, there's some aspects of the vampires. I will say that the vampires, they take away some of the Deborah Harkness takes away some of the threats that make vampires threatening in this trilogy. Not everything, of course, but anyway. So either way, I enjoy it. I have to say, I like Twilight. I'm one of those people who likes Twilight. But I also really like the series a little bit better than Twilight. And I disagree with. I remember reading one review where someone was like Twilight is far superior to this trilogy, and I'm like, and I'm thinking, I disagree with you. I think this trilogy is better, but that's their opinion, and this is my opinion. So if they think, that Twilight is better, then good for them. And I don't even know how old that review was anyway. So, but yeah, I just have to read one more book, and I might start this in February. I'm thinking about starting this in February. Okay, so the last two books I have here are big, chunky books. And I don't know if I'll get to them or not. I'm going to try. To finish them. And one of them I've already started. So that is The Light of All That Falls, which is the final book in the Lycanus trilogy. And this was one of the ones that I would like to donate to Givens when I'm done with it and share, and spread the fantasy love. And give them more fantasy series, but yeah, this is a really fun trilogy. I like the magic system. I like how it kind of looks at how you suppress one group because you think they're a threat, and the consequences of that, and how they will, and how they will fight back to defend themselves, and it gets them and how it's not such a black and white thing, like. It kind of explores it kind of has some similar things with Grace of Kings, where you have people that are suppressed and they decide to fight back and they want revenge, but then there's a chance that they might be not better than the other people, that they're so angry and they want to punish. You see that, in a lot of fantasy books, I feel like, where there's war involved. And how people struggle to show mercy because they feel like, how can you show mercy when these people don't want to show mercy to us? Why should I show mercy to them? Kind of mentality. But yeah, the magic is really cool. And I'm enjoying it. It's, again, I always have this problem where I have a hard time talking about fantasy, and I think it's partly because of my bad habit of spreading out the books as I read through a series, where it's years before I pick up the next book, so I don't remember things. And there's so much going on in these plots. There's so many details and so much information that I have to remember. I mean, I know that it's hard enough for people that don't read fantasy. Like my mom and dad could not understand Harry Potter because the character names and everything, and just all the magic spells and stuff. They had trouble with Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is relatively simple compared to other fantasy series. Um, and sometimes stuff like this that I can better follow along via a movie or a TV show because you always have the visual, and the visual will stay in my mind. Which is why I always root for adaptations. I always have hold on to hope. I will never, even though it continues to be bad, adaptations continue to be bad, just disrespect the fans that are the reason it's so popular. The reason why you are motivated to turn it into an adaptation, adapt it into a movie or TV show. So you should respect those fans, but you seem to not get that message. And these people, these screenwriters think are so arrogant. They think they know what's better. And yes, sometimes some of the changes that are made, fans think, oh, why'd you change that? But then, it's like some of the changes are kind of necessary, that they make sense. But most of the time, you're just changing the whole story for the sake of, I want to change it because I think I know what's better, what's best. But yeah, I really like this. I also love the idea of a character that is kind of caught between they were like bad before, and then all of a sudden they get their whole memory wiped of their past before, and then they get a chance to be a better person. And they're caught between, what if I make the same mistakes? What if I screw up? Or trying to decide, or being caught between, like, my friends tell me I should do it this way because it's better, because they think in their minds, what they believe I should do is the right thing, but you're not 100% sure if you agree with their ideas either. You're not 100% sure if their way of thinking is better, necessarily. But you also don't want to be the person you were before. We have a character that's very much like that, so I really like that storyline. I find that's really interesting and very philosophical. Because, what's good and what's bad and what's best for the people, for the greater good. And is the greater good, like, sometimes the greater people do things in the name of the greater good, but it ends up being the wrong decision, or a decision that's made for your own selfishness and your own fear, because of your own selfishness or your own fears. But yeah, I only have one book, so I probably have a better chance of getting this one done than the other one I have here. But, so there's that. And then last, we have... Okay, I have 2 more books to read with this series. And actually, I might just start from the beginning of the series, so I might not even finish this before the end of this year. But I grabbed it anyway, just in case. But I am thinking about rereading it. As, just rereading it again from the beginning, because there's so much to happen in the story. And, I mean, I could just do I am sure there's someone on YouTube who did a video where they basically explained everything that went on in the series. So maybe that might save me more time so that I can actually finish it. Not that it shouldn't be about, like, just marking off as a series I read, but, I would like to not have it sitting there any longer with it unfinished. But that is the Faithful and the Fallen series. I'm very behind with this author, because he's already written another trilogy. He just finished it, in fact. And, so I have 2 more books to read from this, so that's why I wanted, I know it's no rush, and no one's forced me to finish it, I know that, but I just don't like it hanging over me, knowing that it's sitting there remaining unread. I want to actually finish it. It's one thing if you that whole mentality of, I like having a lot of unread books and having books that I've had read as well. Yeah, that's good, I do agree that shows that you are well read and you also have options. And you're not gonna be able to read everything. And it's, almost impossible for a reader to read everything on their shelf unless they have only, 10 books on their shelf. And even then, they'll probably will buy more books at some point. But anyway, but when it comes to series, I feel like it's more about not wanting to have a series unfinished. You know, I want to, you know, unless I like, actually die, I want to try to finish the series and catch up with, you know. So I don't know. I think it'll probably be better instead of just starting from the beginning. I'll just, you know. Although, actually, let me see. Was he the author that does kind of a cast the characters? Sorry, this might be an author that does a. No, he's not the one. I mean, he might do so in his other book series. So I might have to watch a video on YouTube so I don't have to start all over again. But this is the third book, The Ruin. It's one of the, again, another kind of Viking story, where you have like all these character warriors fighting for control and fighting for power, and there's magic in this. So again, like, you know what, I feel like, you know, you could do a start, like I would recommend like reading the Saxon series by Bernard Cornwell, Under the Northern Sky, the first Being the Wolf, and this series. You could read those together and have kind of a project where you read, you know, Viking warrior type stories on, you know, one right after the other, if you're interested, if that's something that you would be interested in. But I think that would be a really good thing to, like, I love the idea of packing together groups of books that have, like, from different genres that are very similar, or, you know, explore similar themes and similar ideas, like putting them together. I think that's a cool idea, you know, reading them and then, like, kind of like a theme. But anyway, so this one is, again, one I'm not sure if this will happen, but I would like to try to. I mean, there's 12 months out of the year. Who knows what will happen? But that's my goal. But these are my series I would like to finish. I have hope that I'll finish them, but I don't know if that will happen or not. I would like to try to, though. So that is my update for you guys. I hope you like this video. Do you guys read series? Are there any series that you're currently reading that you would love to share? Please feel free, if you are reading a series, feel free to share in the comments below. If you're interested, if you've read any of these series, or if there's any of these series that sound interesting to you for the little bit I gave you. I know I didn't give you a lot. I'm not very good at summarizing things. But again, feel free to share in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy what you're currently reading. And I would appreciate if you guys would give this a thumbs up if you liked this video, and please subscribe if you want to continue to watch more of my videos. And I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!